Hello.
How are you?
Good. Been a
Good.
busy week. Very excited. And 2025 has just started. So, very excited for the whole year actually.
Welcome on ABO. I'm glad to have you. You're the co-founder of Breer, beer company, the contraction of beer and bread. Breer, it's actually beer made of breadcrumbs. Sold in Hong Kong in some retailers like 7-Eleven and
City Super,
City Super.
Soon Welcome,
Okay.
and many other craft beer locations.
Okay, and soon you will be launching, very, very soon, depending on when this episode is out, but maybe you'll be already launched in Singapore and later this year in India, right?
Yes.
So that's a tough, ambitious year for you.
Exactly, yes.
So when we chatted last time, you told me that it's not the first time you're a business owner. Can we say you're a serial entrepreneur or something like that? Even if
That's the sexy word to use, so yes.
Yeah. Well, you've been building businesses since you were 13. 13. So that's very young, and actually the first company that you created got acquired, if I'm not wrong. So that's quite an achievement, like while other children are just playing, you were already an entrepreneur. And actually that company was about money saving and investment, right? About being an entrepreneur, it's actually your objective is to solve problems. So it's not necessarily about yourself, it's more about others. Of course you make profit,
Yes.
but it's about solving problems and see things differently. And from what we hear in the media, on social media and stuff, entrepreneurship has been a bit glamorized. There's a lot of podcasts about that, but hopefully in my podcast it's really authentic stories, and we don't lie about also the struggles about entrepreneurship. And what do you think about that? It's not a real question, it's more like a thought I had about glamorizing entrepreneurship, while actually it's more about the core is about solving problems and doing it differently.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Carmen. And it's a pleasure. I've been a fan of ABO and I listened to every podcast before this. So it's one of the, as you said, more genuine, authentic podcasts, coming out of Hong Kong. So,
Thank you.
I'm very happy to be here. I think we can definitely say that, it's finally cool to be an entrepreneur. Like earlier it was cool to be a doctor, an engineer, and finally it's cool to be an entrepreneur. And it's like just cool to have CEO or co-founder written on your LinkedIn, whereas does it mean something or not a lot of people are putting thought into that. And I think for me and my co-founder Anushka, both we have this view that you yourself can't really call yourself an entrepreneur. It's really other people who have to recognize you as an entrepreneur. So yes, entrepreneurship has been glamorized, but I think my view on this, that this is definitely a step forward for pushing entrepreneurial thinking. Yes, there will be bad actors because of this process, but then what I believe is there are a lot of students who now take up entrepreneurship much early on because they think it'll be good for their resume. Yes, that's not the right thing to do because you're not doing it for the right reason. But if that helps you build any sort of mindset related to business, there is a net positive than a net negative, in my opinion. So yes, it's glamorized, but I would say that if in the end you find the right reason as to why you're doing it, rather than the only reason being that, oh, I want to look cool, then we have accomplished the goal.
Yeah, and if the only reason is to look cool, I mean, I don't think I met an entrepreneur that does it just for that purpose, and it's not a purpose. And I think if you do it for the wrong reasons, you might not go through all the overcome all the challenges, because otherwise, well, even think about myself, like if I was not driven so much with a purpose, I would just give up, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
But yeah, because just we see so much in the US they love these stories like Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and all these guys, and you're like, this is not, I mean, this is like a tiny part of entrepreneurship. Talking more about your business, about Breer, how come did you start this? So how did you start it? Why beer? And how did you experiment from breadcrumbs to beer? That's very uncommon. So one day you just wake up and you're like, I'm going to do that. Or how did this happen?
Well, not one day, but it was, I would say, and I always say this, that Breer is a business which was born out of serendipity. Like we did not had plans to start this company, but one step just happened after another. And I think a big reason as to why we started Breer is because both me and my co-founder, we both are Indian origin. Like I was born and raised in India, she was born in India and raised in Hong Kong, but both of us have been raised with Indian values. And one of the biggest value which we share as Indians is that we don't like to waste food. Like in the Indian religion, food waste is considered to be a sin. So that's something which we grow up with. And then when I decided to come to Hong Kong to pursue my undergraduate studies, I came to Hong Kong and I could notice an evident change in how people waste food here because of how fast paced the life is. And there is just so much food wastage which was taking place on a daily basis. And it just so happened that, Anushka and I wanted to participate in this social entrepreneurship competition in my first year of university called Inactis. Yes. And we were at this orientation and, there were only two people constantly chatting, me and Anushka. So we were like, okay, maybe we can do something together. Okay. And even until now, we have no idea that we'll work on the idea of making, beer from bread. But then a couple of days later, we were writing a midterm exam and it's HKUST. So this is like far away, tucked in new territories, not HKU in the middle of the city. So it ended at like 9 p.m. and we didn't have a lot of food options available and we were hungry. We take a cab, we go to a nearby place and only a bakery is open. And then we're like sitting down, we order whatever we do, and then we see the baker is like also closing down the bakery, and we're seeing all the fresh bread which is left from that day not sold, he's putting them into a black rubbish bag. And then I just out of curiosity happened to ask the question that, hey, like, is this going to be donated? What are you planning to do with it? And then he's like, no, we're going to throw the bread.
Wow. Throw it away.
And then I just asked as to why, because in India we store the bread in like our refrigerator for like 3-4 days because it's natural to do it. And he just said
you can freeze it.
Exactly. So you can refrigerate it. But I was just so blown away as to why you're doing that. And then he's like, oh, it's like people just prefer to eat fresh bread. We can bake new bread. It can come in again the next day. And it's going to charge me so much to properly donate it or dispose it. So the best way is to just put it in a garbage bin. And that was like a tipping point. That was like, oh, this problem is really big. This is like not a small problem we're talking about. And to put it into numbers, it's a number which scares all of us, any food entrepreneur in Hong Kong, that it's a population of only 7.5 million people. But we waste close to 3,600 tons of food daily in Hong Kong. Daily. So wow. 3,600 tons of food, and rice and bread are the two biggest constituents of this large number. So bread is around 1,500 tons out of the 3,600 tons which is wasted every day in Hong Kong.
Wow.
So it was a huge number and it blew us away. And we were like, okay, what can we do? So there are obviously charities which are working in Hong Kong, like Feeding Hong Kong, Breadline. Everyone's trying to solve this problem. But again, they're only scratching the surface because of how big this problem is.
But also, it's a bit crazy that that baker replied to you that it's more expensive to donate it rather than just throwing it away.
Yeah, because logistics is expensive in Hong Kong. So either getting someone to come and collect it at your store, or you hiring a go-go van to send it is going to be expensive.
Yeah.
So that's why it's expensive, rather than, hey, let me go out and throw it. So that's the cheapest way. That's the inexpensive way to do it. So so that really affected us, and then we obviously dug up the numbers and who are the actors who are working on this problem right now. But we didn't have a solution until now. And we were just very clear on the idea that, there are already great charities working on this. We don't want to start another charity, but we want to rather supplement the efforts of existing charities, because even after these charities work, there is so much bread wastage still in Hong Kong. So we were like, this is full disclosure, but we were in LKF 1 week later because our midterm exams had ended, and we were just in a club, and we were celebrating the end of exams.
Like Hong Kong students.
Students, first year, fresh from India, just celebrating. And then at that point, I did not drink alcohol because I was freshly 18. So I was I just turned legal to drink alcohol.
So you were super respectful of the rules.
Okay. At least we can say that on the podcast. But yes. But I actually did not used to drink. But then there was this bartender at this club which existed, 4 years ago. And he was drinking something which looked like beer, but was not beer. And then I asked the bartender out of curiosity, what are you drinking? And then he said he's drinking this 14th century drink, which is called kvass, Kvass. So this is a drink which was originally, made in Egypt by the rurals and the pharaohs. Then it migrated to Russia, and now it's a really popular drink in China. And basically kvass is alcohol made by fermenting bread.
Oh.
That's kvass. And then
I've never heard of this.
Yeah, I mean, until that day, me too, no idea what it was. And then obviously I did my Google research and everything, but that was the, the eureka moment, or the light bulb moment, ting, we saw the problem last week. The solution is right
Connecting
here.
Connecting the dots.
Yes. Let's do something about this. So from that, I think that was September, October of 2019. And then from there, it was 10 months of pure R&D. From the day when we had that thing, it was okay, I'm a marketing student. My co-founder is an electrical engineering student. We have no idea of what chemistry is. We don't know what fructose is. We don't know what sucrose is. So we have to learn everything from scratch. So, we were
How did you do it? Did you watch YouTube tutorials on how to make beers?
So the fun part was I really wanted to do it offline. I wanted to learn. I wanted to pay for a course and learn. But before we could do that, COVID hit. And then everything was shut, and I couldn't go to actually learn it physically. So we literally ordered a home brewing kit from Amazon for $35. And then I'm a YouTube learned brewer. I literally learned brewing on YouTube. I remember I was in my pantry of the dorm room. And then we blew up the kitchen once because we did not control the temperatures well, and the whole ceiling was full of wheat and stuff. So we've literally come from those beginnings where we had no idea what we were doing.
Thank you YouTube, because we can learn so much stuff there. I learned how to podcast.
Exactly.
Basically.
There's free education available in the world if you want to leverage the right resources. Exactly.
Yes.
At that time we didn't have AI. So at that time we were still searching stuff ourselves rather than the AI doing it for us. But it was still easier for me to do because, we obviously were able to find videos and do it ourselves. I mean, 10 months was literally just pure R&D and see if this is even feasible or possible or not. And then when the first wave of COVID kind of subsided and the government removed the alcohol ban in Hong Kong, we were okay, now let's do it in person. So we found one brewer who was actually the head brewer of a local brewery in Hong Kong, and he was also an HKUST alumni. So he was the only one who replied to us, and he was the only one I will help you. These kids who can't figure it out, I will help you guys. So then we went to their brewery, and that was where we really started our first pilot batches, our first pilot commercial runs. And from there, it took us 22 or 23 iterations before we even arrived at an edible, drinkable product. I would just say edible, not tasty. Edible. You know?
So how many liters of beer did you end up drunk or what?
Oh yeah, we will not get there. But like the point is, it's not even good drunk because you're drinking like bad alcohol. You know, some are very salty, some are very sweet, some are like some taste so bad. So like you literally have to try everything. So like. And as soon as we arrived at that one edible product where we were like, oh, like this will not kill me, you know, this is like okay. Then we were like, okay, let's stop wasting time. Let's take this product and actually set up booths, go in front of people and make actual people try it. And I've had like, I remember we did this booth in Lychee Cork in 2020, and then we made people try that beer and people literally like spat it out in front of us because it was bad.
Yeah.
It was bad. And we were like, sure, you know, you can do it and I accept the feedback, but give me the feedback, what you don't like about the product.
Yeah.
So that was really the journey of how we, you know, like came to the idea of how can we make beer. Then we constantly kept iterating, making better products, going in the market again. And this loop until we were very happy with the products which hit the market. And so like end of 2020 was when we were like officially on the market, started selling in stores. So it's been like 4 years since we've been actively selling on the markets in Hong Kong now.
I love this story. I have some quick questions for you before we continue.
Sure. It's a rapid fire.
Yes, I haven't told you about this. No thinking, just answer.
Got it.
Your favorite drink?
Like beer?
Whatever.
Gin and tonic.
Gin and tonic, nice. Okay. The drink of your first hangover?
First hangover. Whiskey.
Oh, can you drink whiskey now?
And now I don't. I'm not a whiskey person.
Usually, the first drink that made you hangover.
Yeah, whiskey.
You can't drink it anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. The best dish with a beer.
Best dish with French fries. Like I think French fries and beer is a very OG combination.
In Belgium they got it.
Exactly.
They got it. Yeah. The country that makes the best beer.
Well, people say Belgian and Germany. I actually love Japanese beers. Japanese beers are really nice. I was in Japan like 3 weeks ago and I literally tried so many different local beers in Japan. Yeah.
Okay. Lager or IPA?
IPA.
IPA. Okay. And then I have one fun fact question. I didn't know about it. So interesting fact. Do you know what the highest alcohol volume contained in a beer? Do you know what it is?
I've had 15%, but then could be higher. I would guess a higher number, like 40.
67.5% alcohol.
Wow, that's like absinthe level. That's like absinthe level.
That's obviously a Scottish beer called Snake Venom.
Yeah, I am sure this is like you're just terming it as beer, you know, like it's just probably like liquid death where it's water but in a beer can. So it's like absinthe but in a beer can.
This is obviously I think I found it in the Guinness book or something.
World record, for sure. Like I've had 15, but like beyond 15, then you're not drinking beer.
Yeah.
Like then you're drinking just liquor, like straight up liquor there.
Anyway, I thought it was funny. Yeah. That's it. Easy, right?
No, very easy.
Oh, and also I wanted to know what was the time you drank the biggest quantity of beer?
Oh, yes. So when we launched our Breer Pale Ale, so this was, I think, 2021, our first like commercial product. So we launched it at a place called Hoppy Junction in Wan Chai. And this was like the first time Breer was doing an event, and that was like we invited everyone, like over 350 people came to the event, and everyone was like, hey, if we drink a beer, you have to drink with us. So I remember I had like 27 pints of beer that day.
27 pints.
Yeah, so we started at like 5 in the evening, and then we ended like 2 a.m.
Okay, 27 pints. I think I would just be in a coma.
Yeah, so it was 27 pints. Yes.
Wow, okay. Maybe I'm wondering the record in the Guinness book.
I mean, but like I don't know how many of them are like fully completed, how many of them are like half completed, but I counted. So it was 27.
27.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, back to the question.
Back to business.
So as you mentioned, you were born and raised in India, where you had a family business, actually. So yeah, the apple never falls far from the tree, right? It's a recycling business. So as you said, sustainability in India, and well, food waste is something you mentioned that, but also it seems like sustainability is something dear to you, and it's just not empty words.
Yeah.
It's a way of living as well. So as you'll be launching Breer in India very soon, well, by the end of the year, it's such a different market to Hong Kong and Singapore, because on Hong Kong and Singapore it's quite similar.
Yeah.
In terms of population and habits and lifestyle. So what will you do differently in India? Because well, I've never been to India, but from what I know and what I heard, we can't really say the Indian population. I guess we can say the Indian populations, plural.
Yes.
Because it's like
so
many
big and so
countries
diverse,
in one country. So as it's so diverse, how are you going to tackle this market?
Yeah, so I mean, our strategy of launching in India was that we're a small fish in that ocean. So how do you tackle the ocean, right? So we anyway wanted to be like, we wanted to do it under someone's mentorship and someone's partnership. So we are partnering with the largest craft beer company in India and launching a beer together with them. Okay. So this
What's
company,
it called?
so it's under NDA, I can't reveal right now. But yes, soon people will find out themselves. Okay. They have access to basically all the metropolitan states of India. They actually own beer cafes. They sell beer out of their own cafes. So distribution to some extent will be solved by the fact that we're launching the beer with them. But at the same time, we also get a lot of local understanding, because even though Anushka and I are Indians, we don't we've been in Hong Kong for like 7 years, and Anushka has been in Hong Kong for like 25 years. So like we still are a bit away from what the current Indian palate is and what people like. But the ideation is really around the fact that bread waste is not a big thing in India. People don't maybe sympathize with the concept of bread waste, but what people sympathize with the concept of is other things which are wasted in India. Like for example, a big thing is there's a lot of dessert and there's a lot of wasted sweets in India. Like every nook and corner you'll find like a dessert shop or a sweet shop. So the first beer we actually R&D'd is a gulab jamun beer. I don't know if you know what gulab jamun is, but it's the most popular Indian dessert.
Okay.
So like every local bakery, sweet shop is selling it.
What is it made of?
So it's basically a sugar dough ball in sugar syrup. So it's like just sugar.
Sugar
like
and sugar.
Sugar and sugar. So it's so much sugar at once, right? So it's a sugar dough ball. So people call it like a donut in a sugar syrup, basically. Okay. So it's very sugary. Yeah. So the point is, we're like, how can we turn this into beer? Because that's wasted a lot. Bread maybe is not wasted that much, but that is wasted a lot. So bread will always be a component of our recipes because we are Breer, but like what else can we utilize? What other resources can we utilize to make it cater to the Indian population?
Oh, so you kind of adapt to the market, and maybe, I don't know, in the future, if you launch in another country where they waste a certain type of food, maybe this is something also you can adapt.
Yeah, so we're a very vocal for local company, because we don't want to make in Hong Kong, solve Hong Kong's problem and then sell those products in India. If we're in India, we want to solve India's problem. If we're in Singapore, we want to solve Singapore's problem. So in Singapore, yes, we're launching a bread beer, but then we're also using pandan leaves, because it has to be pandan flavor. It's Singapore. Right? Yeah. So we will always customize products for the place we're launching it in, because only then people resonate with the problem. Otherwise, for them, it's like just another beer.
Just adding more.
Yeah. So we have to be very local. So with India, we'll try experimenting with a lot of different Indian flavors, like a chutney sour, which will be like very tart and sour, or like a very sweet beer. So many different experimentations are going on right now. We're in the R&D phase to see what would suit best. Because again, you can only launch in certain regions of India, because you can't launch everywhere. It's impossible to do that. You can't be pan-India from day one, because only conglomerates can be pan-India at some point. So we're experimenting, but I think we're on the right path in the way that we're obviously making sure that the products and the story will align with what the Indian audiences will like.
Oh, cool. Okay, nice. I was not expecting that. I think it's super smart to, well, we tend to hear, yes, you need to adapt to local markets, blah, blah, blah. But actually, this is even more than adapting. It's like, because otherwise you're just adding more consumption to a country, but actually you taking care of the problem, like economically and ecologically as well. Okay, cool.
Well, India is the only country which has forced every global brand to localize. Even something like Kellogg's couldn't push the cornflakes narrative in India. They had to start selling Indian breakfast when they launched in India.
Wow.
So
okay.
India is such a beast as a market.
So how did they...
So they started, like, if you look at their marketing in like 2008-7 when they launched in India, it was all about, hey, we're going to make India eat cornflakes. And like 10 years later, now they're actually selling like South Indian breakfast ready to eat. So like, it's like they had to change their entire distribution and product strategy because you can't tell Indians what to do. Indians will tell you what they want to do. So customer is absolutely king in India.
I love that.
So it's a very different ball game from many other markets.
There's no globalization of... Okay.
Yeah.
Let me just grab one beer to try now.
Let's do it.
Wait, I'll go to the gym after. So I'll go to the gym with drinking beer.
Get the yellow one if you can. The yellow one.
1 glass of water for 1 glass of alcohol, right?
That's the drinker rule, to keep hydrated.
But who does it? Who does it?
I do it. I follow it religiously, actually. Yeah.
I don't. Should I do ASMR?
Sure.
It's like a commercial on the radio, like...
Yeah. Yeah.
Like...
I can... wow. We made such a good beer. I can smell it till here.
I love this sound. Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thank you. Smells good. First time I try it, and actually it's a bit less bitter than regular.
It's an IPA, so different beers will have different bitterness profiles.
It's a little bit fruit, or well, I'm bad at saying
that. That's okay.
But I just feel like it's not sweet, but it's sweeter taste than regular beers I've tried.
Well, the beer you're trying is our best seller, and the reason it's our best seller is because it's made using the local pineapple buns, bolo bao. So it's not made with a genuine like plain white bread. It's made with an exotic bread, so you have to also feel the bread when you're drinking this beer.
Nice. Okay, that's why it's yellow. Pineapple for the people who don't know what this is, it's very Hong Kong pastry. Yeah. And it has nothing to do with pineapple. It's just the shape of the bun that makes thinks about pineapple. Yeah, nice, very good.
So this beer recently won the best IPA award in Hong Kong. And I mean, it's our by far it's our best seller. As soon as it gets in stock, like people already are lining up for this beer. So I mean, we're really proud of this one.
Yeah, you can. It's very tasty. Okay, let's keep going. We're not drunk yet, and we won't be.
Yes.
But we should have, this message like drink with moderation.
Drink responsibly. Yeah. That was the name of our pilot product.
Yeah.
Called Responsibly, because we wanted to say drink responsibly.
With everything we said, food waste, sustainability, solving problems, what are you after? And by that I mean, okay, you're solving problems and all of that, yes, but what gives you the energy and when you wake up in the morning, what makes you get up and go beyond your limits and just go and get it?
I think for me, entrepreneurship has just been that, like I am intrinsically motivated in many ways to actually just, as you said, as we started the podcast, to like solve problems. Because for me, I've always been interested in impact, like the space of impact in general. And I've always been interested in social impact. Because, like for long, like capitalism is good. But capitalism is also what got the world to where it is today, where it is breeding with so many different problems. And I think it's only capitalism which can also solve this. So that capitalism has to be conscious. It has to be conscious capitalism where businesses obviously need to have a purpose and make profit. And it should not only be maximizing shareholder value, but stakeholder value. That, we're doing good for the society in many different ways. So from my first company till Breer, like I wake up to be like, we are actually creating incremental change. Like if Breer would have not existed, there would have been 150 tons of more bread in Hong Kong's landfills, which Breer has been able to eradicate over the last 4 years. There would have been like 5 more tons of carbon emissions in the atmosphere, which Breer has been able to avoid. So I think there is obviously this environmental purpose, but I think what's really important and why I feel so passionate about Breer is because there's a lot of people who want to contribute to change, but they don't know how to do it. Because, when we talk about climate change and sustainability, we use
don't know where to start.
Yeah, and we talk about these fancy words like green bonds and, carbon credits and things like that. And the general person doesn't know what this means. What they mean and what they understand is how can they contribute to change. And one of the biggest things which humans do is socialize, drink, eat, and you're anyway going to drink, right? So if you're anyway going to drink or you're anyway going to eat, why can't we have sustainable alternatives? Yeah. So that's your way of contributing to this mission of climate change.
Consuming better.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And there is this whole trend of like Gen Z and millennials, when they walk into a store today, they walk in to buy a cause. They don't walk into the store to buy a product. So I feel it's my responsibility in many ways that if I was born with such privilege, then it's my responsibility to make sure that I use this privilege wisely and I enable so many other people to make change. That's why if you look at our packaging, there's like a QR code on our packaging. You scan this QR code and you get to know the exact impact you made as an individual by drinking this can. So how many grams of bread did you save? How much carbon emissions did you save? How much water did you save? Which UN SDG did you support? Everything is mentioned because I want you to know that you made a change by choosing this beer over any other beer in the market.
Yeah.
So that's what makes me passionate about this.
Yeah. It seems that from the many business owners I met, there's a difference between, business with a purpose and they want to make an impact, a positive impact. You have the businesses that are just, their purpose is to make profit.
Yeah.
And they're also the social enterprise as well. And the charities, but they are each very different. And actually, I think that many people do this confusion between charity and, a
social
business with a purpose and social enterprise.
Yeah.
But I think that like social enterprise, they have this goal and they make it real with a business. But it can also be the other way around. Like you want to start a business, but you don't want to be one more person that just adds more to this, consumption, overconsumption and all of this.
Yeah.
So I guess, I hope there's this more and more this trend for business owners to start a business, but really think about their impact and not just be out there, make money and that's it. Or maybe donate a small percentage
1%, or
to
buy
charities.
carbon credits or things like that. Yeah.
Just to feel good. Maybe there will be more and more business owners that has a purpose and an ethic actually?
I think it really needs to start from education and university. Like one of the biggest things which I learned at university was the concept of triple bottom line, which is people, planet, and profit. And these three things need to be balanced for you to build a business of the future.
Yeah.
Like, because without profit, you can't do anything for people and you can't do anything for planet. But it's like, it's all interrelated. If you don't do anything for the planet, will you have profit in the future? Will people even survive in the future if you don't do anything for the planet? So it's very interrelated as a concept. That's why all businesses need to strive towards actually working towards the triple bottom line.
We talked about your purpose. We know that entrepreneurship comes with mistakes, lessons more than failures. And actually the next, depending on when this episode will be released, but there's an episode that is like a best of episode with some mistakes that some of my guests have made and what they learned from it, and the resilience it takes. Can be difficult to find this resilience sometimes. It's really a test and a personal achievement to be a business owner. So was there a time, either with Breer or your previous experience, where you made a mistake, like a big mistake, and you learned from it and it actually taught you something?
I mean, we'd be kidding if I'm saying that as an entrepreneur I've not made mistakes. We make mistakes as an entrepreneur all the time. And when you said, learnings, for me, I live with this philosophy day in, day out, which is fail stands for first attempt in learning.
I love that. Okay.
So that's my philosophy always. I wear failures as my badges of pride. And I obviously make sure that I don't repeat my mistakes. But I think in the journey of Breer, we've had so many mistakes. One mistake which really taught us, a big lesson was the fact that in Breer and in Breer's business model, we have to work with companies and organizations a lot. It's a B2B driven model where we get the bread from companies, we sell the beer to companies. So we'll have to talk to executives and corporates in the best way possible. But at the same time, we were only 18. So, you don't have a lot of experience in doing that.
Credibility.
You're not sharp enough. You don't have credibility. So I once remember, when we were starting out and we were looking for bread sources, we attended this one event and we finally convinced a very big bread chain group in Hong Kong to give some of their bread waste to us.
Okay.
And we were top of the cloud. Yes, it's amazing. And then at that time, we didn't have the right facilities or resources because we were still a very young company. And one day we collected bread from them and it was in excess of what our refrigerator could store. Because at that time, you only had this one tiny refrigerator and we asked for 25 kgs and they gave us 50 kgs and our refrigerator couldn't store 50 kgs. This was 10 p.m. in the night when the store was anyway closing. So we went to the refrigerator, we couldn't store it, and then unfortunately, we had no other option but to keep 25 in the fridge and then 25 outside the fridge because our fridge cannot store it. And then the next morning I wake up to an email from our university sustainability head that we found this bread wasted, and then the security guard or the cleaners disposed this bread off. And now that group, because the packets had their branding on it, obviously the group was informed that your bread is being wasted at this university. And there was a whole chain reaction of that one mistake, the fact that we did not do something professionally or we did not think of the repercussions, and we ended up losing that bread contract. We basically ended up not getting bread from that bakery source ever again, and then it took us 3 months to find another stable bread source for the company. So one mistake led to delay of 3 months of development because we didn't have any bread, but we didn't do it professionally. And that was one mistake, which was when we're dealing with such big companies, every step needs to be taken with so much caution that since then, we've obviously made sure that we have proper SOPs when we're dealing with bread, when we're dealing with companies, we're dealing with institutions. But yeah, I think I would say that one mistake was like, oh, why did we do that? It was like, it really set us back then.
Yeah, you learned the hard way.
Yeah, we learned the hard way, yes.
But then, learning the hard way in a way is positive because you won't make that mistake again.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're launching in 2 new markets soon, but imagine if there were no limits in terms of money, in terms of production, in terms of markets, in terms of like no limit at all. And you could dream big. What would you like? What would you wish for Breer?
I think my wish for Breer, even though I love making products, but because I'm so driven for the purpose of Breer, like my wish for Breer would be that not the product, but the concept makes more popularity. And what I mean by that is that I'd want a Carlsberg, an Asahi, an AB InBev, a Heineken, a Budweiser to be like, hey, bread beer is good and we want 10% of our product line, 20% of our product line to be converted into bread beer, and we will use Breer's technology to do it, or Breer's recipe to do it. So while we'll be making products for AB InBev, but the 20% of supply of AB InBev is probably going to be like, it's going to take Breer 30 years to get to the same level of AB InBev in terms of scale. AB InBev sells in 200 countries in this world. 20% of their supply is going to be bread beer. Imagine the amount of environmental preservation we can do with that compared to Breer getting to that point 30 years later. Yes, I can be selfish and say I'd want to see that happen with Breer products, but I know that it's going to be competitive. It's a commoditized market. We're selling a commodity at the end of the day. My end goal with Breer really is that I want to be the concept which made these big beer giants wake up and be like, oh, let's do this.
Nice. Okay, last question for you. So this is the same question to all my guests. Can you share a lesson that you learned that taught you something and you would like, other fellow business owners or aspiring business owners to hear about?
So I actually have 2.
Okay.
The first lesson is the fact that I love this line that when life gives you oranges, make lemon juice out of it and leave the world wondering how you did it. Which really explains the idea that this world will always put a premium to creativity and innovation, because this world is so done with the same things being done again and again that if you can put the extra to ordinary and you can be extraordinary in whatever you do, the world will always recognize you. That's one lesson which I always keep with me, that the difference between ordinary and extraordinary is extra. So you have to put in the extra. And I think the second, which is a lot to the young entrepreneurs and a lot of people, that don't let your mind become a graveyard of ideas. Like I wear Nike most of the time, you're wearing Nike, but I follow what Nike says, which is just do it.
Yeah.
Like don't think too much about it.
Yeah.
And especially at my age, I have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like I don't have any dependents, I don't have kids, I don't have anyone to feed right now. I have nothing to lose. So why should I not take more risks? So why is there this mindset of security? There should be a mindset of risk. So I think just do it. Don't think about what will happen in the future. Well, will it work or not? Because a failed business will also teach you so much that even successful MBAs won't teach you.
Yeah.
So I think these are the 2 lessons which I truly live by, and I try to propagate in whoever I meet and whoever I care for as well.
Yeah. I would even add to that don't take yourself too seriously, and if you fail, it's fine. No one will judge you.
Yeah.
Actually,
except yourself,
because usually we're afraid of that. But people wouldn't judge and say, "Oh, you failed," and mock you. They wouldn't do that. They would be like, they wouldn't say anything, because actually people just mind their own business and they don't care about you.
Yep.
I agree that if you don't take risk, I think not taking risk is actually the biggest risk of all.
Exactly.
Because you're just not trying anything, and you you're not exploring, and this is what just makes you, you know, alive, I think. Well, of course you have to think, you just don't do it. But yeah, I understand, and I agree with what you said. But I think if you think too much, you always have a reason not to do it.
Yep. Yeah, don't be in what we call in entrepreneurship analysis paralysis.
You can't be theoretical about this. Yes.
You're the only way to learn will always be doing it.
Yeah.
And then failing, learning from it, and then doing it again.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be, well, it's not always a huge, massive fail, you know? It can be, for example, the technology not working when we want to record.
Yeah.
And every time you learn this little thing. So you know, at the end of it
compounds.
Yes.
It compounds.
Yeah.
Like, I've seen almost every episode of ABO, and I've seen you from episode 1 to episode 40, 50, and I can see the growth, right?
Yeah.
Every time technology is getting better, cameras are getting better, setup is getting better, so much is getting better. Same for our beers. The first beer was edible, and now we're winning the best IPA award. So we're all taking our journey. But you have to start somewhere.
Yeah. This first beer that was disgusting, without that, you wouldn't have won the
Exactly.
Sure.
And not get bogged down by that, why is it so disgusting? Be motivated by the fact that we can make better.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
I think it was a very, practical tips and I think very relatable as well. Well, I hope. We'll finish the beer. Thank you again.
A cheer for Breer.
Oh, nice. Thank you.
Thank you so much.